Jen. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful evening. We appreciate you taking the time to be inside and learn some more about Park City Education Foundation, as well as some updates from Park City School District. I'm excited to introduce you to our panelists, Park City educators, and Park City's Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Amy Hunt. They'll each have a moment or so to speak about their experiences with at-home learning, and we'll take some time for your questions as well at the end. In the meantime, though, we're hoping to make this a somewhat engaging experience, I guess as engaging as can be when we're all like staring at our little electronic screens right now. But please take a moment just to let us know who's on the call this evening. Please use the chat function. Let us know if you're a PTA or PTO member, if you're a parent, educator, a PCEF donor or volunteer. And also let us know if you have any successes or epic fails with at-home learning. No judgment as well. Many of us on the panel tonight are parents as well, and we've had our own challenges. So please feel free to share again in the chat function. Just wanted to give you a little bit of information about Park City Education Foundation. We've been serving Park City teachers and students for well over 30 years now. Our mission is to lead the community in funding initiatives that inspire all Park City students to reach their academic and lifelong potential. To support teachers and students right now in this moment, we've expanded our Express Grant program to provide immediate support to teachers and students for at-home learning. We've always offered Express Grants. It's always been something that the Ed Foundation has offered to schools. However, with our shift to at-home learning due to school dismissal from the COVID-19 pandemic, it really demanded that we step up even more and really, to be blunt about it, put our money where our mouth is. So to date, we've raised approximately $32,000 for this program, and we've distributed just over $31,000 in our Express Grants. Again, these grants are to support immediate needs. And to put this in just a little bit of context, we typically give out $10,000 each school year, and we've basically tripled that just in the past 6 weeks. So, definitely a big lift, but one that we're absolutely, thrilled to be able to offer for our local heroes, our local teachers. So if you're interested in seeing specific examples of what's been funded through our Express Grants, along with more information about the Education Foundation and how we support teachers and students year-round, please visit our website. That's PCEF4kids.org. That's PCEF, the number 4kids.org. And also, you can make a donation on our website as well if you feel compelled to support this work at the end of this panel. And now I'm going to kick it over to our main show. I'd like to introduce our 5 panelists: Dr. Amy Hunt, Kara Breckwald, Janet Tullis, Shelby Cornett, and Matt Nagel. Dr. Hunt is going to start. She is the Chief Academic Officer for Park City School District, and I am going to turn it over to her. Dr. Hunt.
And I'm going to cross my fingers that our internet works and everything goes the way that it's supposed to today. First of all, thank you for the invitation to be here. I would be remiss if I didn't take a minute to express the appreciation that we have as a school district for our foundation and for all those of you who support our foundation, particularly during a challenging time. One thing that we're not lacking for in Park City is people who care. And we appreciate that support and hope that you all know that we appreciate that support. One of the things that I thought I would do is just, first of all, express how hard our staff has been working, and particularly our educators, and express my appreciation for the tremendous work that they're doing. The other day I was on a Zoom call with a first grade teacher she had 10 students that had come to learn online, and it was amazing hearing all about what they were wearing and their pets and trying to get them to turn the mute off so that she could read the story she was trying to read. And I just kept thinking, wow, it takes a really special person to be able to have the patience and and the concern to make sure that our kids know that we love and appreciate them, and that we miss them. So I know that all of our teachers here today share that same sentiment. And even though it's been a very difficult time, I think all of us are taking away a few things that make us appreciate what we have day to day working with students even more than we normally do. I have been asked to take a minute today with the foundation to talk about what next, because although we've been working through a challenging time, we have some opportunities moving forward. So as everyone's aware, we've been managing through what we call crisis learning. This is obviously a time that we didn't plan for or anticipate. And I'm sure our educators here today will tell you that they didn't have training in their programs for education to learn how to do emergency remote learning. It's been quite a learning experience for all of us to figure out how to seamlessly create opportunities for students to continue to grow in their learning. That being said, we do have an opportunity moving forward to think about the things we've learned in this experience, and knowing that we're not quite sure the details of our environment when we think about coming back to school, we do know that we can be thinking about some scenarios that will help us in our planning back to school. We also know that while the answer is usually in the room, it takes a lot of people in the room with this one to be able to figure and think through all of the scenarios that we might experience. So if you'll permit me for a minute, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm hoping Kara, can you be the point person to let me know if this does not go
Sure.
as planned? So already it's not. So it says the host has disabled screen sharing.
Okay.
So I think you have my document if you're able to pull that up.
Yeah, Jen, are you able to help pull up the document?
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you.
So as they're pulling it up, what I'm going to be sharing with you is the thinking that we're doing right now as a school district as we work towards returning to school or creating that roadmap for coming back. What we know is that as we come back this fall, there are many scenarios that might be possible in terms of how we can interact together in a schooling experience. And that will be dictated exclusively by the health department in Summit County in conjunction with the state. So what we know is that we want to be able to be nimble, and we want to be able to be flexible. So as we move forward, we are working right now on creating a number of task force groups. And these task force groups are going to be sitting together to think through what does it look like with specific scenarios to return to school in the fall, all the way from we're in a red status and we need to continue with distance learning to a fairly normal return with students in classrooms and few restrictions. So as you can see here, we have a timeline from now until mid-June to be able to work together as task forces. I'd like to, if you can scroll up, I'd like to show you an example of the work of 6 different task forces. You'll see that, whoop, going a little fast, let's go to the number of 6. There we go. Those are the 6 task force groups that are going to be working. We have an instructional continuity plan. This team is collecting feedback and going to be reaching out to stakeholders for some information around the things that we've learned during this emergency remote experience to be able to create a long-term distance learning scenario for those times that we may need to have intermittent long distance learning. We have a task force looking at potential schooling structures considering social distancing restrictions. The same is true of our secondary school planning team. We have an instructional planning team that's assessing and addressing potential student learning loss. We have a team that's looking at wellness planning, considering our staff, student, and family needs. And then we have a group that's considering the needs of our most vulnerable students, because one of the most important aspects of our planning is always focused on making sure that students are at the center and that we are providing equitable opportunities for all the students in our school district. So if you'll scroll forward, We'll take a look at a charging document for just one of these teams. This team is the ICP, or Instructional Continuity Plan. So you can see that this team would be looking at how do we think about long-term learning if we needed to continue in a remote setting. So I wanted to show you that each task force is led by one of our cabinet members or an administrator in our school district. And we have worked with internal stakeholders to identify people from each of our schools across our district and across roles to be able to put together a group of people that we know will help us generate ideas that will help meet the need for specific outcomes for each group. If you'll scroll down a little bit, we'll take a look at some of those outcomes and things that we're measuring to determine whether or not we have enough information. So for example, here we'd be looking at having an actual completed ICP, which could serve as a document for us moving forward. Some of the metrics would look at providing opportunities to learn more from our stakeholders, our students and our parents and our staff around those lessons that were learned during emergency remote learning. Including looking at other ICPs from other districts, gleaning experience from throughout the United States and the world so that we can be sure that whatever situation we might have where distance learning is involved, that we are providing a planned opportunity for students to continue in their learning. You can scroll down just a bit more to get some idea the scope and parameters and limitations for each of these groups. As we move forward, we're excited to see the ideas that are generated from each of these 6 task force groups. And we're looking forward to being able to use the recommendations and planning that comes out of these groups to be able to have the opportunity to be nimble and flexible as we look at all kinds of scenarios that might be facing us this fall. Okay, so you've gotten to see a little bit about the planning that's happening. We're looking forward to seeing those ideas. Kara, do we want to take questions now, or would you like to be able to speak with others before we do Q&A?
Why don't we speak with a few of our other panelists, and then we can do Q&A at the end, and we'll just have the questions go in the Q&A chat button at the bottom. So thank you so much, Dr. Hunt. I appreciate that overview. Now I'm going to introduce our teacher panelists, Kara Breckwalt, Jana Tullis, Shelby Cornett, and Matt Nagel. And what we're going to do is kind of go round robin, if you will, starting with Kara B. Not to confuse anyone with 2 Karas on the call, but just if you would each state, where you teach, your role at your respective school, and then a couple of questions we would like you to answer is, the need that you saw with the shift to at-home learning, and how PCEF was able to help meet or solve that need through Express Grant funding. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Kara B.
Great, thanks, Kara. So I am the special education teacher leader. So I help support all of the teachers throughout the district and in all of the programs. And I think the greatest need that we saw when we shifted to our at-home learning was really the Express Grant itself. It's the opportunity to access those resources and materials that the teachers would need to provide this instruction in this remote learning time. And we were thrown obviously into very uncharted territory, especially for special educators. And we were tasked with trying to fly this plane while building it. And so the Express Grant really provided the support in order for teachers to build as they were engaging in this new experience. And so that our at-home learning really evolved. I mean, initially, once the teachers were starting to do their online instruction, they realized they needed some of those materials that were present in the classroom. They needed those at home as well. So the grants were for whiteboards and markers and some of those instructional level hardcover books that were used in the classroom so the students could have access to them at home, preschool sensory materials so that preschool teachers could provide activities for families to do with their preschools to engage in learning. And then that evolved to more online resources. Teachers, especially our programs that work with students with significant cognitive disabilities, the online resources are narrow, and we were able to find one that was very meaningful and impactful for our students. We were able to get subscriptions for each school so that teachers could individualize their instruction per student. They could provide activities for their ESPs to work with students online, and then even has a progress monitoring component so that we can ensure that our students are making progress during the remote learning. Social emotional online platforms for those students that, you know, their brick and mortar classroom setting has been taken away, where they were practicing those strategies and those skills with their peers. And how do you provide that? This is some interactive video platform that, you know, kind of the next best setting that you can provide virtually so that those students could continue to practice with their teachers. And you know, like Dr. Hunt explained, as we continue to slowly transition back to the traditional setting, not to lose those strategies and skills that they learned throughout the year. And then I think for our middle school, junior high students, the teacher said, we need motivational incentives. We got to keep these kids completing their work, engaging in their learning, coming to the online instruction meets, and they came up with ways to incentivize, you know, as simple as Amazon gift cards and online gaming credits and things that the students said, this is what I would work for. And so that was really impactful. And then now we've evolved to conferences registration. So that was a huge need as we continue to think about our practice and next year, what does that look like? We have an opportunity to work with the Wilson Academy and our Learning Ally, which are both platforms that are supported through the district, to attend a conference that's going to share with us best practices for virtual learning and traditional learning. So it really evolved throughout the course of the school dismissal. And I think the way PCEF helped to meet and solve our needs was to allow that to evolve and to allow the teachers to be creative and to say, this is what I need. And then to respond so quickly, so efficiently. We had one of our district team members, Lori Maggard, huge shout out to her. She said, you guys are teaching, let me do the grant writing. What do you need? Why do you need it? And let's get this, let me write it up for you. And so we actually received all of our grant requests, 10 at this point. And it was sometimes hours that we'd get the approval. And it was that support that really helped maintain for teachers, sustain them in their practice. And so I just want to say a huge thankful gratitude of appreciation to PCEF for that. And, you know, going back to flying that plane while building it, you really provided the wings, the propeller, the snack cart, all of it that was really needed during this time. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Kara. And yeah, thank you, you know, special education team, your task was tenfold. So thank you. And we are proud to support you and your students. Jana, I'm going to kick it over to you now.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Jana Tellis, and I teach at McPolin. I am in first grade on the English side. And I too would just like to give a huge thank you to PCEF for their support all through the years, and especially during this challenging time. And also to all the participants for their support and donations that you have given. So thank you. So as we shifted to online learning in my first grade world, it took a little bit of time for everything to kind of sink in and to realize that this was kind of our new reality for a while. And so just like we differentiate in the classroom, we also wanted to be differentiating our learning packets that were going home with our kids. So our need was to have supplies to provide materials at kids' level that is appropriate for them, but then also to provide them with the supplies that they need to do their work from home. So our Express grant, all 4 first grade classes at McPullen, was approved in a matter of, like Kara said, like an hour. And it came in the form of gift cards to Amazon for things like pencils. Luckily, I was smart and got the pre-sharpened pencils. Big erasers. We gave them a box of crayons, scissors, glue stick, and then the number one supply in the packet that people were most excited about was a pencil sharpener. So we gave them all of those supplies along with big plastic bags to put everything in. And then we also were given a Teachers Pay Teachers gift card so we could purchase materials that were appropriate for each student's level. And it's been awesome. So thank you, PCEF.
You're so welcome, Jana. Proud to support you in McPullen first grade.
Yes.
Great. Shelby, I'm going to kick it over to you right now.
Okay, thanks. So like she said, I'm Shelby Cornett, and I am a 3rd grade teacher at Jeremy Ranch Elementary, or I guess my home residence at the moment. I guess when all of this happened, it was a rush to get materials to the kids and have things for them to do while they were at home. And then as that started to kind of, I guess like the others were saying, like sink in, it was, the next question was, how am I going to teach my students from home? Because at first it was more review, and then it was getting closer to online learning. This is our new reality. What's next? So I think the need turned into what tools that teachers needed to be able to engage students in meaningful learning that closely resembled what was happening in the classroom. So in my grant specifically, I put 2 in, and again, like within hours, it was like, got it, buy it, go for it. My approach was wanting to be able to continue with the curriculum that I use in the classroom and be able to have access for the kids to have access to the rich books and the learning that comes from that, and manipulatives to show how to do things. And we're all about cursive in 3rd grade too, so be able to show them how to do cursive and continue all of that they're used to. And so I was supplied with several items that allowed me to do that and to feel like I was effectively teaching the kids even though they're at home and I'm not with them. So it was just a wonderful feeling knowing that we were all so supported, and it was instant and quick, and it was almost like it was limitless. Like whatever you can think of that's creative that you or your students need, we've got you. And that was wonderful. So again, very appreciative towards PCEF and all of the donors who made all of this possible.
Thank you so much, Shelby.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to kick it over to Matthew Nagel now. If you want to, just let us know where you teach, your role, and something about your need and how the Ed Foundation was able to respond to your need.
So I teach at the high school. I've been there for 15 years teaching language arts and a handful of other things over the years, journalism, debate, ethics bowl, stuff like that. Humanities, I guess, generally. And first I have to apologize for my hat. It's kind of informal, but I'm hiding my coronavirus hair, which is absurd. And I chose not to shave my chin to disguise the mustache that I've been growing over the closure, which is also extraordinary. The sending everybody home and still trying to do school, I think the biggest realization is that exacerbated every inequity of our community, right? The kids that come home to a stable household log onto their computer, they have stable internet, and they do their work, with routine. And the children who go home to homes that are maybe less stable or have other challenges, and the coronavirus presents all kinds of new challenges, health and financial troubles and things like that. Those are the kids that are struggling. And I actually made a list of things that became kind of immediate needs for us. One is the non-tech learning materials. Jana talked a lot about that. The tech materials, especially for creating new content that kids can consume digitally. And of course, in the secondary schools, we have the Canvas LMS to deliver all these things. And I have a 5th grader at McPolin, and he uses Google Classroom. And so teachers creating content to deliver over a platform like that. But in addition to technical connectivity, there's a need for social connectivity, and the Zoom, we're mostly using Google Meet for class applications, but those kind of face-to-face things like those only go so far. So social connectivity is an issue. And then a big one is, just like I said, mitigating the challenges of home life that are disparate across the district. If you go to the Ed Foundation website and look at the express grants that they've approved, they meet all of these needs, right? Glue sticks and crayons and paper, like those kind of non-tech learning things. Lots of materials for creating digital content. A buddy of mine, Steve Katita, got an express grant for a program that will help him manipulate audio and video so he can deliver kind of, pinpointed videos just how he wants. Anna Williams and Lindsay Huntsman did a grant for face masks for families that wouldn't have them otherwise. So it's like a non-academic thing, right? But it's a need that will help those students be better prepared to engage in the classwork. So I see the Ed Foundation in this particular scenario, this strange weirdness that we're all in, as meeting all sorts of needs, not just pedagogical needs, but the things that underlie learning for kids in these different kinds of homes that we all go home to.
Thank you, Matt. Want to end kind of the more formal, speaking portion before we move on to the Q&A with a question for both you, Matt, and then one for Dr. Hunt as well. And Matt, I'm wondering if you could tell us a bit about what it means to have Park State Education Foundation support, not only in these strange, crazy, upside down times, but in normal times as well, really at that kind of, classroom level.
So I just think back to how many times when the Ed Foundation was housed in the high school did I run up to the second floor and sit down with Abby McNulty and Jen Billow and whoever else would sit and listen to me, and I'd say, I've got this great idea, what do you think? And Abby would never ever say no. She would say, well, let's think this through and see what, I've got all these big ideas. I run upstairs and I have to sit and catch my breath because of the stairs, but she'd just sit and listen to my crazy ideas. And so supportive every year, so supportive. And the people that donate, it's kind of amazing to me. It's so different from, I went to public high school in Louisiana, and it's insane how different the experience is here. What I want to say about it is our district is also kind of amazing, right? I was talking to somebody in, I won't mention the district, but he was bragging about how many Chromebooks they had delivered in a quick amount of weeks or something like that. And I thought, you mean the kids didn't already have devices? Our district is so technology rich and human resource rich that we're starting from a place that is really kind of luxurious as a teacher. But what the district provides is universal and kind of top down. They provide things that are where we already have a proof of concept. For example, the one-to-one computers and canvases for everybody or something like that. But when I run upstairs to the Ed Foundation, or you guys are across the street now, it's like I've got an idea for just my class, the journalism class. There's only one of them in the whole district. Maybe that's not true. I think they have like some at Treasure as well. But like we need remote cameras that we can use, or remote microphones that we can use to produce news packages. And everyone at the Ed Foundation is like, all right, well, let's figure out how to make this happen. That's not something I'm going to take to the, the basement at the district office and say, hey, the technology department needs to provide this. The Ed Foundation helps us innovate because we can get things that we need quickly and like targeted and just for our class. It's just, I've been the beneficiary. My students have been the beneficiary of that for over 15 years. And it's really, really amazing and deeply, deeply appreciated.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. The number one kind of thing that is needed for student success is the classroom teacher. So thank you, Matt, as well as the other teachers for helping our kids be successful, even in the craziest, weirdest, worst of times. And Dr. Hunt, same question, what does it mean to have the Ed Foundation support, but, kind of from more of that, 10,000 foot view district level?
So as Matt was saying, the thing that's nice about PCEF grants is that it allows our teachers to explore those things that they think are going to work with our students. And when that's able to happen, then we learn a lot as a district. And there have been many things that I think have been put in place district-wide as a result of that donation to a teacher who's been able to try something. And then when it's been really filling an important need, then it can bubble up and become part of a district-wide program or part of a district-wide service. And so it allows us to be able to not only innovate, but then to take innovation and make it systemic throughout the district. And so it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to have, funding that's available for our teachers to try things with their students. And we appreciate that so much because there's not really a way for us to use, funding that is targeted for all students and, to innovate and try new things in that way. Having served in several districts now, one thing that I really have appreciated about Park City Education Foundation is that they really are invested in making sure that they are providing for students. The money that's being provided to teachers is focused on making sure that those things that happen in classrooms allow our students to grow. And that's an amazing gift for a district to be able to have a partner in supporting students and teachers in that way. And so we're really appreciative of the fact that we have that opportunity in our district, and we're grateful for it because it allows us to be able to innovate at the district level without as much risk. So it really makes a big difference for us.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Hunt, we are proud to help with be an incubator of great ideas here in Park City. We're going to get ready to open it up to the Q&A. Would like to remind everybody to use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. But I'm going to kind of prime the pot and kick off with a question for our teacher panelists. And feel free to jump in and answer in any order you would like. But a very hot burning question right now is, how should parents be supporting their students academically right now? I'm a parent as well. We worry. We worry about our kids, and we want them to continue to learn and be successful and reach their lifelong potential. So not sure if any of our educator, Jana, she
I can start.
Your unmute went off first, so ding ding.
I think it's first and foremost important that everybody is happy, healthy, and safe. And I think once that is happening, then parents can every day we send out kind of a checklist of things that the kids can work on, and sometimes parents will message me and just say, we just didn't get this done. And I'm like, that's totally fine. But I think it also gives a great opportunity for things like, I'm going to give an example of our family went on a hike. And my first grader said, "Mom, what's the difference between red ants and black ants?" And I said, "Well, they're different colors." And, I didn't know really a lot more. I knew red ants, can bite you. So we went home and we listened to some videos and read some books about red ants and black ants. And she made a Venn diagram comparing and contrasting, and then drew a diagram of an ant. And since she is in dual immersion, she labeled the parts in Spanish. So, if parents feel the need that they need to take something that their child loves and approach it in that way, I've always told my parents, like, if something that they enjoy doing, just take that and just go with it. But I think our parents have been amazing. Everybody is trying so hard, and plus they're all working from home, and everyone's just doing their best. But I think if there are times where, we just didn't get an iReady lesson in today, that's okay. If you can go for a walk and look for shapes outside, or things like playing hopscotch, but instead of putting numbers in the boxes, you put words, and as the kids jump, you say the word, so I've been trying to send out little ideas like that. But I think parents need to do what's best for their family right now, and making sure that they are healthy and happy and safe is priority number one.
Okay, thank you, Jana. Would any of the other teachers like to jump in? I love the advice with kind of the project-based experiential learning, as well as finding a passion project for your kiddo. What are they interested in? Be it red ants, black ants, or something else. Shelby.
I guess an elementary perspective, just everything that Jana said, absolutely. And I think that something I've noticed with the kids too is it's a great opportunity for them to really encourage a love of reading. And we have like book challenges, reading challenges that we do, and we post each other doing it, like reading in a tub without any water and building a fort and reading in it. So just coming up with, fun activities to encourage learning in different ways, like Jana was saying, but even with reading, because, reading is a catalyst to so much learning. So definitely encouraging not as traditional classroom learning is also really helpful for kiddos too.
Okay, thank you, Shelby.
And I will speak from the special ed perspective. For us, I concur, and we all concur with everything that the teachers said, both Jana and Shelby said. It's about communication with the families to help understand what their current needs are. I think one of, as we were all reflecting about what are some of the benefits that are coming out of this challenge, and how are we going to continue this into our practice as we move forward. One of the benefits that's come from working with families, especially with our students with more significant disabilities, is that they are now able to generalize a lot of the independent living skills that they've been practicing in the school setting now at home. So, and they've been doing some meal planning and cooking and cleaning to, up the dishes. Now that all of those tasks are happening at home with the support of the parents, and the students are actually learning how to generalize that to their actual home setting. And so that's been a really great opportunity for families to work together with the schools.
Thank you. Matt, do you have any advice, both as an educator or as a parent of four?
I just keep coming back to the word balance. I have 4 kids in the house, all doing the work of their different teachers. I have one child that is working about 6 to 7, sometimes 8 hours a day, and I have another child who is doing a great deal less than that, to the point that we're like looking for things around the house that he can do, right? Part of that is because of the schedules that they've picked. But I think about my kids that I'm teaching, And I have some kids that are super ambitious, and they're on their high school schedules are full of AP classes. They're high achievers. They have big dreams for after high school. And I feel a real obligation to give them stimulating work every day. And at the same time, given the circumstances we're in, I don't want to bury the kids whose family lives make it more challenging to keep up. So balance is really hard from a teacher perspective, and it's really hard from a parent perspective also, right? There have definitely been days, it seems like a lot of the teachers are kind of adjusting and calibrating to the new situation, but that calibration from a teacher's point of view, it's so hard to do. It's kind of an impossible task, and especially impossible where, frankly, we're all improvising, right? And if this persists into next year, we'll have to do some, coordinating and, some hard discussions about, which courses are delivering how much work. I'm speaking from a secondary point of view. It's probably very different in a class like Miss Tullis or Miss Cornett, where they're responsible for all of the content for the child. But balance is such a hard thing to do, and I just want the people listening to know that I struggle every day figuring out how can I stimulate my high achievement kids, and at the same time give appropriate work to the kids whose lives are just not, school is maybe the least of their worries right now. It's a hard balance.
Yeah, thank you. Kind of in that same vein, and perhaps Dr. Hunt, I don't know if this is something that you would want to address from more of that district level, is teacher burnout. Just addressing that. I mean, teachers are really going above and beyond and doing extraordinary things right now, and we want to make sure, to go back to Matt's comment about balance, that is so important.
Yeah. So the one thing that I keep trying to share with our teachers is to remember this scenario that we're in, right? We're in emergency crisis learning. And so what that means to us is that we want people and we want our stakeholders to understand that our teachers are being asked to do what they can do. And that's enough for us. We're so appreciative that they're doing these learning experiences and doing things on platforms that they haven't been, trained on for long periods of time or given support around. And so what we need from them is for them to take care of themselves and to understand that as they really address and try to maintain that balance in their own lives, that will help them be successful in working with our students. We appreciate that they've been so patient and kind with the students that they serve and the families that they're serving, because it is really challenging. And there's a lot of things that maybe as the public, we don't think about the fact that our teachers have turned their homes into their classrooms, and they've invited, students and their families into their homes, into their personal spaces, and are willing to do that and share some of those pieces of their lives that they don't normally, they normally can keep separated from their work. So balance becomes very important, so that our teachers, we've encouraged them to really take care of themselves and to reach out and let us know when they need support. One thing that we did early on is we created on our internal website a space called My Educator Blog. And in that blog, we've tried to include little tidbits of ways that teachers can participate in self-care, or thoughts around how they might balance their work as they understand for the first time how to work from home. Tips and tools and things that will help them to be able to understand that we recognize the pressure that they're under, and that we really want them to know how much we appreciate and want to be here to support them. And that as they do that, it's going to get better. We've been able to understand and pinpoint some of those places that we can provide additional support. But ultimately, we just feel fortunate that we have talented educators and professionals in the district that have been able to move past some of those personal frustrations and struggles and still really support students and families.
Thank you, Dr. Hunt. Kind of a bit of a follow-up question for you, Dr. Hunt, and if anybody, the other panelists, would like to jump in. Wondering how the district will address all the student learning needs in the fall. You did touch on that a bit in the beginning, so I'm wondering if perhaps this question came from somebody that joined us a little bit later. And also, will school look different in the fall? I know that you do not have your crystal ball. We're all kind of using our magic 8 ball at this point, to make some guesstimates, but just to tell us a little bit about what this fall may potentially could look like.
Yeah, so we know we're going to need to be flexible, and we know that the scenario for us could look all the way from intermittent full school closings like we've been experiencing, where we'll need to continue with distance learning, all the way up to having students in small groups with social distancing and preventative health care measures. As we're working in our task force groups, we're considering all of these scenarios and trying to develop potential plans that would allow us to be nimble and flexible and address each of those as they occur. That means that we're going to have to be very creative in our thinking. Right now, the focus that we're taking is what is feasible and what has as little negative impact as possible. We recognize that if we start looking at scenarios that include small grouping or that vary start and stop times in school, that this impacts families. And so we're trying to figure out how do we maximize the time that we have with students, but also be respectful of the fact that when it comes to the decisions that we're able to make around how we provide schooling for students, that we have first to be accountable to our health county partners, as well as the USBE and state government as well. So what we're focused on is really thinking through as many scenarios as possible to allow us to be flexible as those times come, because we do believe that we may be shifting from one type of scenario to another.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And is there a baseline that you expect our teachers and educators, to provide? Obviously, it's going to look very different from, a preschool student, up to a senior in high school. But any just kind of a general baseline.
So, as we're looking at what distance learning looks like, you're talking about in a remote distance learning.
Correct. Yes. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, as we're looking at what that looks like, up until this time, we've been focused on providing emergency learning, right? And that looks very different than if as a district we had decided that we wanted to have a distance learning strategy for students who wanted to be able to participate. In fact, if you look at a lot of the targeted programs that have been focused on distance learning for years, there are some recommendations for the kinds of students that are most successful in those programs. And typically they're students that have fairly good attention span, that are independent learners, that can be capable of doing asynchronous work. But when we're talking about providing basic instruction in this way for all students, whether they were selected or self-selected for those programs, we have to be able to provide a lot more in terms of supporting our teachers. We know that we're going to need some significant professional development to help them see the differences between face-to-face learning and distance learning. I'm sure any of our panelists here could say that they have rewritten and redone almost everything that they normally would be teaching at this time to make it capable of being online instruction. So we intend to plan and provide a lot of professional development. We also realize that there's more that we can do to provide some structure around specific learning times and what a school day looks like. The instructional continuity plan that I talked about, the ICP, will outline a lot of these things for our internal and external stakeholders, and it will help us to be more consistent in the way that we approach distant learning for our students, with equity foremost in mind. How are we reaching all students to be able to engage and support them in learning? And how are we supporting our teachers to make sure that they have what they need to be able to be successful?
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Hunt. I believe we have time for one more question. Not sure if anybody wants to type it in the Q&A. Now is your chance. And I just want to, thank our panelists, for their great advice, and also just, the focus on social emotional, as well, that it is a tough time for even, kind of the smartest, most academically gifted kiddos. So, and just a plug too, to reach out to, school counselors as well, just with, the resources that the district does offer. And it looks like we do have a question, coming up. It kind of touches on a bit of what you discussed, Dr. Hunt. And this is, I guess, specifically for the Education Foundation. How can PCEF help support innovative ways to reach those who struggle with online learning for all kinds of reasons? And really, I think, what that is, doing things like our express grants. We just had our classroom grant period, our application period end as well. That really, it goes back to, the Education Foundation recognizing that teachers are the #1 indicator of a student's success, and turning to the boots on the ground, those in the classroom, to help inform, what education should look like, to help us, tell us what the needs are, and what the teachers need to respond to those needs. I know that we plan on bumping up our Express Grant fund for next school year as well, knowing that the only thing that is certain is uncertainty right now. And it looks like Matt took his mute off as well. That he
just a quick thought about responding to the question. Dr. Hunt mentioned earlier that one of the cool things about the Ed Foundation is that we can kind of be, the laboratory, the experiment, or the incubator for like a small idea. Maybe this works on a bigger scale. And it's not just the kids that are working in isolation right now, but the teachers are working in isolation. And when we were in school, we would have time set apart each week to speak with each other, the members of our department, and throw ideas back and forth and say what's working for you, what's not working for you. And I've got a text thread a mile long with my department. Every day we're talking to each other. But I would really love it if the Ed Foundation would figure out a way to highlight things that have worked. And like we've got, I don't know how many teachers in the district, but every one of them, as I said earlier, is improvising. And some of those improvisations are going to work out really well, and some will be train wrecks. But we need to know from, what do they call this, where the whole group is working on the problem. I forget some internet term for that, but there's got to be great things happening in the district, and we aren't all hearing about them because they're happening in isolation instead of, in a school building where we can all watch it and see it. Just a thought.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. You're going to regret saying that, because I'm going to follow up with you on putting our heads together and coming up with some ways, to share out the good that is happening.
Crowdsource.
The nice thing is that so many teachers have stepped up and have followed through and contacted us after they received their Express Grant to let us know what's working, kind of some lessons that they've learned, and just figuring out, how we can then spread and share some of those great ideas that's happening. The nice thing as well with the Express Grants is knowing that the good work, the impact that's happening, the programs that are being implemented won't just end, after the school year. That I think it will inform instruction to come, and that we know that this gift isn't just kind of a one-time deal. That there will be impact that will last beyond the school year. That those whiteboards won't go bad at the end of the school year. So thank you. And I think, let's see, I don't think we've had another question come in, but so I think we can wrap it up. If any of our panelists have any parting words, Shelby, it looks like you took your mute off. Do you have anything that you would like to say?
Well, I was just gonna add kind of what Matt and you were saying is the few like Google Meets I've been on with other teachers, or if I've, you know, run into them into the school, it's really fun to share with them, like, oh, what have you been doing at home, you know, and this is something that, you know, I got a grant for, or this is something that I tried recently, and it was like, oh, well, that's a really good idea. And I think I started somewhat of a trend with a similar grant, I think, throughout the school, which was kind of fun to see that, you know, you could help each other out in solving some of these issues with, you know, trying to teach from home. And I think the other piece is too, like, I get excited thinking about how I can use those very same things that I have at home in the classroom with the kids. So it definitely isn't something that's just serving up right now. I think a lot of what we are receiving through PCEF can be used in the future for sure, which I know I'm excited to figure out how to use those in the classroom too.
Yeah. I also wonder if, you know, perhaps something like this, a webinar that we invite, you know, educators to, you know, to kind of really share, you know, what has worked, what hasn't, you know, record it. We can put it up on our website, and it can kind of live beyond. So if a teacher has, you know, a Matt Nagel moment, instead of having to, you know, run upstairs, they can, you know, tune into the webinar and perhaps learn, and then contact, you know, a colleague.
Just have a little show and tell.
Exactly. I like it. Like why am I trying to make this what it isn't? It's teacher.
Yeah.
So on that note, thank you all so much for your time and your support as well. Thank you to our donors, our volunteers, you know, everyone for spending time with us this evening, and for everything that you do for the Education Foundation, for our teachers, our schools, and our students year round. During this crisis, you've inspired us to continue leading the community and funding initiatives that inspire all Park City students to reach their academic and lifelong potential by supporting our teachers. And just a huge thank you for our teachers right now. If we could all just kind of give them a little like virtual round of applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And just a little quick kind of left field plug, but I just want to remind, you know, those out there to complete the U.S. Census. Please complete the U.S. Census. Everyone matters. We need an accurate count because the census data will impact education funding. And as you all know, the Ed Foundation, one of the reasons we exist is because Utah is the lowest funded state education system in the country. Definitely not a statistic to be proud of. So please complete the U.S. Census. And thank you to our panelists. I know you all are balancing. I think that is the key, you know, takeaway is the word balance this evening, but you're balancing your families, your personal lives, as well as your profession, your students you're teaching right now. So thank you for spending your time with us. If you'd like more information about the Education Foundation, please visit our website, PCEF4kids.org. And on that note, I hope everyone is able to go outside, get some fresh air, enjoy yourself, and please stay happy, safe, and healthy. And thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.